So I'll probably start now. So Moluwe ni, everyone. It's nice to meet you again virtually. Even though I don't see your faces, but I can feel the vibes, the warmth. So I hope everyone's kulungile. I miss you guys so much. So welcome to today's seminar session. It's a sort of a prelude of my former talk of what I did before through the fellowship. And if you've remembered, there was one aspect of my work that I did highlight in that session was this potential project of a mud crab project that will be collaborating with SAIAB, with diffs from Rhodes, and also with our fellow DFFE people. So we have William Salapa and his team representing us here. So I am not the expert on mud crabs, but because of that, I would love to introduce you to a very good friend of mine and a good fellow colleague by the name of Dr. Khor Waiho. So before I pass him the floor, I'm just going to introduce you to him a little bit. So Dr. Waiho's expertise revolves around the fields of reproductive physiology, fisheries, and aquaculture, biotechnology, and the effects of climate change, especially for high-valued crustacean species such as crabs and shrimps. He completed his PhD at Universiti Malaysia Terengganu, where I come from, in 2016, in the field of aquaculture. And he's also a senior lecturer at the Institute of Tropical Aquaculture and Fisheries within UMT. After which, he pursued a postdoctoral position in the field of biology for 2 years at Shantou University in China from 2017 to 2019 before taking up a lecturing position at UMT. So within 5 years of work, Dr. Khor has successfully obtained several university matching grants, national grants, and international grants. So we have a rich fellow here. In addition, he is also active in research and writing and has published in more than 100, he has published more than 100 publications, of which 51 publications are him as lead author in Web of Science index paper, such as reviews um, in aquaculture, in chemosphere, and reviews in aquaculture. So Dr. Khor Waiho has published 6 letters in science and currently has a H-index of 27. So the impact of his research is recognized globally. And he has been appointed as one of the 5 committee members of the Food and Agricultural Organization, or for short FAO, for regional mud crabs workshops in 2023, and has published as one of as one of the editors of nearly 400 pages early this year. He serves as an editor for several well-known international papers such as Biodiversity and Conservation, Piaget, and Frontiers in Marine Science. So if you're thinking of publishing there, you probably want to get pally with him. He is also a member of the Young Scientists Network and Academy of Sciences Malaysia, or for short YSN ASM, an initiative under the auspice of the Academy of Science Malaysia, something like that for South Africa, which was established to bring together talented and high potential young scientists in Malaysia. Apart from research and teaching, Dr. Khor also adheres to the principle of knowledge for all, and it's active in knowledge transfer activities and programs and awareness programs for local communities. Among the programs he has spearheaded include the Knowledge Transfer Program on conservation of mud crab resources for local residents and indigenous communities, and the Mud Crab Seed Restocking Program for local fishing communities and women in Malaysia. So without further ado, I will pass on the floor to Dr. Khor Waiho. Take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Melissa. And a very good morning to everyone. Let me try to share my screen. All right, Dr. Melissa, can you see the full screen? Is everything okay?
Yes, yes, it is.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Khor Waiho from Malaysia. So me and Dr. Melissa, we work at Universiti Malaysia Terengganu. It's a small state a beautiful state in the east coast of Malaysia. Um, it's I would like to express my sincere thanks to um, the South African institutions for inviting me over. Today we are going to I'm going to share a little about something that most parts of Asia has been working on and has been harvesting for a long time, but it appears that this is something new the South Africa to the Africa region. So we termed it Gold in the Mud, a global overview of mud crab fishery. So before we start, mud crab is within the genus Scylla, and there are only 4 species within this genus of mud crab. And all 4 species, they are economically important, and most of the time, fishermen or buyers or consumers, they can't really differentiate, or uh, they don't know the detailed difference between the 4 species. So in general, previously before 1998, all these 4 species are considered as one species. So we have Scylla olivacea, Scylla paramamosine, Scylla troncobarica, and also Scylla serrata. Now, Scylla serrata is the largest species among the 4 species. But when we look at the distribution that is represented by the red color star, they are distributed from South Africa up to Egypt, to India, cross over to Indonesia, and go up north to Japan. And they can even be found in Australia and also small islands of Papua and so on. So when we search mud crab video in YouTube, those giant mud crabs are from Australia and they are Scylla serrata. So when you look at South Africa, you can see that there are reports of Scylla serrata present in South Africa. But interestingly, if you zoom into the middle where there are a lot of different colors of dot that represents the other 3 species, in Malaysia, Vietnam, and Southeast Asia region, it is dominated by the other 3 species, but we don't have Scylla serrata. So especially for Malaysia, we don't have the largest species, which is Scylla serrata. So this shows the life cycle and the 2 distinct habitat that is required for mud crab to complete its life cycle. So mud crab, they are a very unique species because in order for them to flourish and to maintain their population, they need 2 distinct environments. One is the near coast offshore, where we have salinity of about 2930 to 33 ppt, and also the intertidal mangrove and coastal regions, where the salinity can drop down to 10, 15, up to 25. So once hatched, mud crab larvae, or normally we call it zoe, will go through several stages. They will go through 5 zoe stages at the coastal marine waters. So during this stage, they are pelagic, so they float with the ocean water to help disperse them to new locations. But after they have transitioned through the 5 stages, they will morph into megalopa. So during this unique stage number 6, they will develop their cheliped, or the first pair of claws. So during this time, they will also change their life cycle from pelagic to benthic. So they will start to sink down and start to look for food and shelter at the bottom of the water column. And after megalopod, they will transition to first crab stage and forward to juvenile and also adults. So during mating normally happens inshore in the intertidal zones. And when female sense that they are going to spawn, so they will migrate offshore to spawn. So that is why in most mud crab research, if we catch mud crab in the mangrove zone, it is almost impossible to find female mud crabs that are buried, that have eggs on their abdomen. Okay, so just now we touched on the ecology and habitat of mud crabs. So these are some of the samples, picture of the sampling sites and also the habitats of mud crabs in Malaysia. So on the top left, that is where, no, the first half, upper half of the pictures are where Universiti Malaysia Terengganu is located at. It's nearby, it's in the same state. So this is at Setiu Wetlands. So this is one of the research station of Universiti Malaysia Terengganu, and also where I conducted some part of my research. And then the lowest part of the picture is a protected mangrove area in the west coast of Malaysia. So you can see that mud crab can inhabit mangrove forests with different vegetations and different types of mangroves, as long as the water environment parameters are suitable for them. So in Asia, mud crabs are highly sought after, especially during festival seasons, or as gifts, or to treat someone to a nice meal. Then normally mud crabs will come in mind. So these are some of the dishes that normally the preparation of different types of dishes using mud crabs. So we have curries and fried, and on the upper right, it's the soft shell crab. So that is also one of the main product of mud crab as well. So in different, their price range, it depends on regions, localities, and also the demand of mud crabs. But per kilo, it could fetch up to 40 to 50 USD in seafood restaurants. With females of late stage ovary fetch even higher price. And most of the mud crabs in Asia region, the consumers are distributed across different regions, but most of the consumers comes from either mainland China, Hong Kong, or Taiwan. So although China produce their own mud crab, they have their own mud crab in the nature. The supply is not enough, so most of the countries around Asia also ship to China. But in addition to China, most of other countries are also importing mud crab, such as Singapore and New Zealand and Australia as well. So just now I've shared a little on the biology and life cycle of mud crab. Now let's see how important are mud crab in the global production scale. So this is from a recent paper from FAO. So when you look at world aquaculture production by species, when we narrow it down until 2006 to 21, mud crab aquaculture lies within the crustaceans and the coastal zones, which is the middle section. So although it might seem a small scale in the global production, it actually holds a significant spot in the production of crustaceans from the coastal zones. So in 2021 alone, mud crab production reaches 300,000 tons per annum, which is around 4.25% of the 7 million tons of coastal crustacean production. And you might think that it is a relatively smaller scales, right? Because it's only 300,000 tons per annum compared to other species such as finfish and also seaweed in the algae section. But we have to also remember that mud crab are very high in value. So although the production weight is lower, but their economic value is much more higher compared to most of the other species. So now we put some numbers into the global production figures of mud crab. So you can see that China produces almost 50% of the mud crabs globally, and then it's followed by Vietnam, Philippines, and so on. So most of the countries are either in Southeast Asia or in or the Asia region, but you still have others such as Samoa, Madagascar, and so on. They are also producing, but it is not a lot. So, and when you look at it, global production is increasing from 2010 up to 2017, 18. But towards the end, nearing 2019, 20, and 21, the global production starts to slow down. So this actually highlights a very important trend where we think that then it would be a very good opportunity for countries with natural resources, especially such as South Africa, to kickstart the production of mud crab species. And another important trend that we found uh, in mud crab production is that when we zoom into 2019 and 2020, when COVID hit the whole every country in the world, it actually didn't disrupt the mud crab production industry. So the production still carries on, and countries are still producing, countries are still importing and exporting mud crabs. This is because mud crab, of course, is the important food source, and that also signifies that their value is it's stable and also it's a worthwhile species to invest in. So global production, it involves both fishery and aquaculture production. So for example, like South Africa, you have natural resources of mud crab. So I'll first talk a little about fishery production of mud crab at a global scale, and then we're going to move to aquaculture production. So mud crab production in most countries of the world, it is still relying heavily on wild-caught fishery. Now, this means that most of the fishery sector in capturing mud crab, almost all different niche of mud crab are being used. So, for example, when a fisherman catch different sizes of mud crab, they will sort it out. So those that are marketable, males and females, those will be directly sold off. But then when they found broodstock, females with high quality eggs, then these broodstocks are even more expensive because they'll be sold to aquaculture facilities. And when they found smaller crabs, then these smaller crabs are being sold off as high quality seeds, either for grow out or to produce social crab. So this kind of catching trend that is applied in most of the countries are actually unhealthy, because then we wouldn't have enough mature mud crabs to repopulate the original population, when all the size of mud crabs, including the immature and mature crabs, all are being captured and sold off. So we have selected, I think I have selected two case study to highlight the production of mud crab and the importance towards the economy of a country. So first, we'll touch on Myanmar. So Myanmar is a Southeast Asia country, and now, although it is politically unstable, they are still producing a lot of mud crabs, and they have very vast uh, very vast area of mangroves. Hence, that provides a very good habitat for mud crab and also for mud crab supply. So you can see that in the left graph, soft-shell crab in mud crab, actually it didn't gain popularity up until 2005. So I think it is around the millennium era where people have noticed that, oh, you can actually harvest uh, crabs that are newly molted when their carapace are still soft, to store them, frozen them, and immediately fry them. So then when we cook them, after cooked, we don't need to get our hands dirty and crack them open. So then this trend starts to kick off, and you can see in 2006, slowly they are the export of soft-shell crab. So then these trends continue up until now, and this form a very important part of Myanmar mud crab fishery and also the economy. So with this, let's take 2020, for example. The production of live mud crab, where they export to other countries, you can see the light blue section, the light blue segment, it is still higher than the soft shell crab section. But then when we look at the export value, in 2020, the live mud crab is valued at $45.6 million. But when we look at the soft shell crab, although the export volume is much more lower, their export value is almost catching up to that of the live mud crab, and it stands at $31.8 million. So now countries are starting to realize that instead of selling, or in addition to selling live mud crabs, fishermen and even governments are trying to encourage people to also produce soft shell crabs to be sold off due to their higher economical value. However, in Myanmar, farming of mud crab is not common because they still have a lot of wild resources, and when most of the Myanmar fishermen are involved in the production of soft shell crab, this hits badly to their mud crab population, because in order to produce soft shell crab, we rely heavily on juvenile mud crabs, because the larger the size of mud crab, the slower they can molt. So normally when fishermen caught a small size crab, then they will turn it into soft shell crab. Now, so Myanmar is the largest soft shell crab country globally. And then we have the second case study is China. China, due to its population and also due to its culinary preference, mud crab is very, very famous in China. So their own aquaculture and capture fisheries production and farming of mud crab in China is very high, and farming areas are also starting to increase gradually. So in China, there's only one species of mud crab, Scylla paramamosine. And the figure on the right shows the mud crab is being farmed and being cultured along the east coast of the whole of the China region. So recently in 2023, I have the opportunity to help organize the FAO mud crab workshop, which was held in Singapore for a few days. So this workshop was long overdue because the first workshop, it was more than a decade ago. And if you notice, when you search on mud crab culture, there's an FAO mud crab manual that was published, I think, in 2010. So this workshop is aimed to update on the latest status, technologies, and also problems, bottlenecks that are faced by the mud crab sector. So we invited selected participants that are well known in mud crab research and production across the world. And after the discussions and the synergistic idea exchange among the participants, we have finally published the FAO proceedings number 73 early this year. So most of the sharings after this part will be part and parcel of this FAO proceeding. So there are 4 farming types in mud crabs. The first 2 involves culturing of mud crab at different life stages. So the early stages of mud crabs are being cultured in hatchery, the larvae culture. So normally it involves culturing of mud crab from Zoe 1 to Zoe 5, and then megalopa and crablets. And then we have the juvenile to grow out culture. So juvenile to grow out culture, normally farmers don't do this indoor, they will do it at earthen pond or in enclosed mangrove areas. Now, this is because these areas provided a larger a culture space with larger surface area. So this reduces the cannibalism or cannibalistic opportunities of mud crabs, and thus increase the final survival and also the profit. Now, besides culturing of mud crab throughout their life cycle, the other 2 are examples of temporary culture of mud crabs. So you have fattening and also soft shell crab. So fattening, as the name implies, it is intended to fatten the mud crab temporarily. So most of the fishermen, when they catch mud crabs that are well below the weight that they want, it is not non-profitable for them to sell off as grade C or grade D crabs. So what they do is they will temporarily culture these crabs, feed them with a lot of food, and then after 2 weeks or after 3 weeks, then these crabs, the same crab, will be sold off at a much higher value due to the heavier body weight. Now, on the furthest right image, this is an example of soft shell crab production farm in Southeast Asia. So each one black basket will house 1 crab. So in each of those black basket, fishermen will select those small juveniles and then put them in the basket and then feed them daily, and also monitor them daily for any molting changes. So once they molt, they will immediately be taken out and stored frozen and then be sold off as soft shell crab. So for the culture process, generally we start off from broodstock and then we go to larvae, megalope, crablets, and then grow up. So broodstock management, previously it wasn't being focused by most culture farm because they obtain broodstock from the wild, so they have no need for broodstock holding. But recently, farmers have noticed that when they have a dedicated broodstock spawning tank, they actually increase the production and the fecundity and the larvae production of the crabs. So now slowly different countries have started to apply this, and the figures are examples of a broodstock culture facility in the southern part of Thailand, which is very close to Universiti Malaysia Terengganu. So in each of the blue tanks on the ground, those are communal broodstock culture center. So these tanks hold females that are still at the early stage of ovarian maturation. But then when you look up those small rounded tanks along the wall, those hold individual female broodstock at late stage ovary. So each of those round tanks hold one female broodstock, and they will be monitored daily for any egg extrusion activities. So once we notice that, okay, this female has eggs outside and on the abdomen, then we'll transfer them to individual holding tanks. Now, in these individual holding tanks, waters are treated. Most of the time, we won't feed them, or we'll feed them minimally, and then a tray of sand is provided for them to aid in their egg extrusion process. So this is an example of mud crab abdomen if their egg is extruded to the outside of the abdomen. So we can focus on the right figure first. The first stage of extrusion, the first moment when eggs started to accumulate on the abdomen, it is most of the time orange in color, bright orange in color. Now, the coloration is due to the vitellogenin in the eggs, but then slowly within 7 to 10 days, the color will change according to the larvae development stage. And then nearing the hatching process, it will turn into full dark gray color. And then we know that, okay, within 1 day or 2 days, it will hatch out. So this is from a review. So this table shows the development duration of mud crab during the early larval stages. So they have 5 zoe stage and 1 megalopause stage. And across the 4 species, their development duration are almost similar. So it takes them almost 3 weeks to 1 month to grow from zoe 1 up to zoe 5 and then morph into megaloph. And each of the individual stage will take around 2 to 3 to 4 days, depending on the culture conditions. This figure shows an examples of A and B are megalopa, and C is crablet. So during megalopause stage in A and B, this is the first stage where they grow their cheliped. So when the cheliped is out, this signifies the start of their cannibalistic behavior. It's more prominent with the presence of the cheliped. But then the difference between megalopa and crablet is you can see that the abdomen is still elongated, and it is still freely available in the water column. But then when they change to crablet stage in figure C, then it has the normal crab shape of a mud crab, and then the abdomen will be flipped over underneath the crab, and it will be sticking towards the main body. Now for grow out, after the larviculture, then it's the grow out culture. So once hatchery get to the crablet stage, they will start to select high quality crablets and then distribute them to outside earthen ponds or earthen tanks. So the crablet at this stage, the price is quite expensive. So normally we sell by per individual, per piece of the crablet, and these crablets they will grow, and then they're in the earthen ponds, and then once they reach marketable size, normally we'll harvest them, or fishermen or farms will also select good quality crab adults to be used as the next generation of broodstocks for breeding purpose. So generally, from crablets to marketable size, to mature adults, it takes around 3 months to 5 months for them to grow. But it is very critical to remember that if feeding is insufficient, then crablets will very fast start to cannibalize on their siblings. So then you'll end up with very, very low numbers of crablets. And these are examples of culture location, the culture facilities of juvenile crablets to grow out. So most of the farmers in Southeast Asia, they will convert unwanted shrimp ponds into mud crab production. So this can also be uh, an option for South Africa if there are shrimp ponds or shrimp farms that would like to convert to mud crab grow out ponds. This is one of the options as well. And these are examples of the marketable sized mud crabs. But both of these figures are Scylla olivacea. So Scylla olivacea, they are characterized by their distinct claw, red color in the claw. But these are considered the smaller size mud crabs when you compare to Scylla serrata. So it is very, very promising for South Africa to be part of the mud crab producing countries as well. So in fattening, the holding facilities in fattening, basically it's almost similar to what we have in laviculture. So as long as there's a tank or some enclosure with water, then it can serve as a fattening system for mud crab. So these are examples of how different countries conduct the fattening process for mud crab, and it varies greatly from expensive hatchery or buildings to very, very cheap earthen pond outside. All of these could work. So for soft-shell crab, this is a little tedious process. This is because when mud crabs are housed individually in a cage, then there's no way they can find for food on themselves. So what normally the fishermen do is they will provide food. They will drop off food twice or 3 times a day into each of those boxes. So you can see in figure D, this is how most of the countries do the feeding and monitoring. So in each of the lane, there are a lot of boxes with mud crabs inside it. So the farmers will stand in the middle of the wooden plane, and then they will just roll slowly over and then checking one by one. So once they found a mud crab that has newly molted, then they will immediately harvest it and clean it and then frozen it. So on the figure on the right shows the molting process of mud crab. So most of the time, farmers would just let the crab molt naturally with all the appendages intact. But there are also some farmers in some countries that have started to use limb autotomy, which is the removal of some of the limbs to induce faster molting in crabs, so that they can harvest their product at a shorter time or duration. But that is unethical, and also it brings about more problems, especially infection and so on. So now we are also in the process of trying to develop other safer methods, such as the development of mold-inducing diets for mud crab, so that they can molt with full appendages intact, but still at a shorter duration. So soft-shell crab, the value is high. So this is a snapshot of the soft-shell crab value chain in Myanmar in 2019. So in Southeast Asia, normally the value chain includes a few components. For hardshell crab, once fishers collect the crabs, they will be accumulated by the collector. They will be housed together and then shipped off to local buyers. But in softshell crab, once they are captured from the wild, they are being cultured by softshell crab farmers, sent to local sales, and then processor, and then they'll be exported. But when we look at the selling price, almost all category of softshell crab value chain exceeds that of the hardshell crab. So in addition to culture, some of the recent progress in mud crab culture involves domestication and genetic improvement. So this is an example. So our group has also produced the high density genetic linkage maps of Scylla parmomosine to validate the 49 linkage group in that species. And also we managed to determine the sex determination mechanism of Scylla parmomosine based on their sex-specific markers. And also we can also map out the QTLs, quantitative trait loci, that are related to growth in a specific chromosome in LG46. Now, based on this baseline data, group of researchers in China are also producing selected breed strain of mud crab with higher growth and also higher tolerance to disease. But they are a lot more progress in different parts of the world, and also in the overall culture conditions. But when we look back to the way forward for South Africa, South Africa has a very strong examples that they can follow from different parts of the world, because in Asia, culturing of mud crab has been carrying on for a very long time. And this provides a very good examples for countries that are about to pick up and help them to prevent from repeating the same mistakes again. So I have listed out four main categories that I think this should be the first step that South Africa should look into if South Africa is going to start mud crab fishery and aquaculture. So the first is, before the start of any aquaculture activities or any fishery activity, it is important to establish the baseline data. So without the baseline data, we have no idea what species are available, what are the population dynamics, how they change according to seasons, and what are the size that South Africa has in different populations, and also a lot of other biological information. So with this, once we have established this, only this data will serve as important parameters to kickstart the aquaculture of mud crabs in South Africa. So once you have this, then South Africa would try to determine if they have sufficient infrastructure or technology facilities to start off the aquaculture process of mud crab. And also with the aid of experts from other countries or examples from other countries, this could be easily done. And the third one, which is quite important as well, is the regulatory and legal requirements. I have very minimum knowledge on this in relating to South Africa, but at least it is important for South Africa to really set out the permits and licensing for who are the approved personnel that can capture or can sell or import and export mud crabs, to start to protect mud crab even before fishery of mud crab has started. And then you can EIA is also important, and also the biosecurity of mud crab is also important. So these requirements have to be set for and have to be ironed out way before all the other activities are being pushed to the large scale level. And the last point will be economic and market. So before the culture of mud crabs are being encouraged to the larger scale, it is important also for South Africa to really evaluate what are the demands and what are the demands of the locals. Are people eating it? If not, are there any ways that we can use to encourage the local consumption of mud crab? And also, what are the demands from the international community? And which countries can we start to link up for with export opportunities? So most of the countries in Asia, they will import mud crabs. Like Malaysia, we import mud crabs from Bangladesh. Singapore import mud crabs. I'm not sure about South Africa, but Singapore import mud crabs across the regions from Papua New Guinea to Indonesia. All of these crabs will go into Singapore, and Singapore serves as a hub to re-export them to other countries. So then it is important for South Africa to map out all this and then uh, gradually increase the scale of the production of mud crab based on this demand and export opportunities. Now, it is also important for South Africa to evaluate the cost benefit and also the profit margin of mud crab, because the production, for example, the facilities and the raw materials and manpower and so on, the cost of this, it differs between countries. So, but most of it will bring forth benefit when we are culturing mud crab. Just that, is it worth it for us to kickstart now, or is it better for us to focus on the fishery of mud crab and maybe just hold off aquaculture of mud crab? So all this needs to be evaluated first. And also, it is also important for South Africa to look for potential investors or government funding, because especially in the aquaculture of mud crab, it requires a lot of initial funding to build facilities, to try out and optimize different parameters before this can be translated and to knowledge transfer to the farmers. So we have collaborated with few South African institutes. So these are, I think we'll be highlighting this project as the that tries to spearhead the mud crab culture in South Africa. So we have submitted this for a grant application, and it involves the South African Institute of Aquatic Biodiversity, SAIAB, South Africa, Rhodes University, Department of Forest, Fisheries, and the Environment, and also Melissa and I from Universiti Malaysia, Terengganu, Malaysia, and also a fellow experts from the Philippines. So this is just the first step that how we try to drive or kickstart the mud crab fishery and aquaculture in South Africa. And if there are more opportunities, then this should also be looked into, because mud crab population is dwindling down in most populations in other countries. But if South Africa's mud crab population is untouched, then these baseline data could also serve as very critical information for the conservation of mud crab in other populations in other countries, because that of South Africa hasn't been exposed to human harvesting and also human consumption. So I think that's all from me, and you can reach me at my email that is shown in the in the slides if you have any questions or comments or suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Waiho. That was superbly insightful and comprehensive within this whole 1 hour. So guys, as you can see, we are cooking here and making something happen. But obviously, Dr. Waiho has covered a broad aspect, particularly on the whole biological aspect, fisheries and aquaculture. And I pretty much like the whole way forward. And I think there's so much that all of us can benefit from this and how we really want to engage with this. So I think I'll go straight into the Q&A. There were people who asked me whether or not this video recording will be shared. Just so you know that Lucky and team would be sharing this video recording on the SAIAB's seminar series on their YouTube channel. So obviously they'll be accessible within a day or week so. I open the floor for questions already. You can either send me questions in the chat or you can unmute yourself and you can ask questions. If there are no questions just yet, probably I'll ask the first one first. Waiho, in terms, maybe there are points that I may have overlooked, but if you notice with the Serata, it has a very wide distribution. And with regards to, say, South Africa and other African regions, I mean, will there be some form of population endemicity in that sense? And also, in terms of, has any form of hybridization occurred?
If you look back at the production map, global map, the 3 species, aside from Scylla serrata, they are mainly concentrated in Southeast Asia region. So those that are further down south, like Australia and all those, normally they only have Scylla serrata. And so far for South Africa, only Scylla serrata has been reported. But when you go up, these are the same trend as well in other African countries. But we still need this baseline data to be conducted and assessed to really say for sure that country has only Scylla serrata. They might have a smaller percentage of another species exists in that country. For example, Australia, almost 80 to 90% of them are Scylla serrata, but they also have Scylla olivacea, but that is in a very small quantity. So they will have one species that will dominate. Either that or they will have only one species. It depends on the evolution of the mud crab, when the speciation starts, and how it during speciation event that occurs, where does it occurs, and so on. And the second question is on
from Vanessa Rohini. Her question is, this seems to be a very labor-intensive production. Oops, hang on. Production process. So that might play a large role in the cost of production in South Africa. In case I missed this, do the crab taste muddy? So are they put through a cleaning phase before being processed for marketing? So there's 2 separate questions.
Yes. So production of mud crab, the culture of mud crab, that whole process is labor intensive. One being, when they are at the early life stages, they are super sensitive. Any changes in temperature, for example, in Malaysia, in our university, if there's raining for continuous 3 days, then you'll find that all your mud crab larvae will die off. But then people still do it because it is worth the sacrifice that they will be making. Because at the end of the day, the economic value of mud crab per piece, or at least per kilo, that is very high. So the return of investment is still worth it. And second, maybe I should have shown a dissected picture of mud crab. So when you dissect or when you open up a mud crab before cooking, you'll find that the whole insides of the whole internal space or area of the mud crab, it's very clean. The only place that is exposed to the external environment will be the gills, but the flesh and everything, those are intact. So those are super clean. And mudcrabs, if they are growing in the muddy area, those mudcrabs, some people believe that those mudcrabs are even tastier than those that grow in clear water because of the water quality changes. But no, you won't taste muddy. That is why I think South Africa could start off this and also do some food sampling to promote the awareness um, of consuming microbes as a option for the local communities as a very good substitution for protein.
Thanks, Waiho, for that. I think Andrea will have liked to ask a question. Andrea, can go ahead.
Sorry, just sorting out my approvals here. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, apologies. I struggled to connect via my laptop, so I'm on my phone, so it's a bit awkward. Thanks for the presentation. Just briefly, introduction. My name is Andrea Bernacida. I am the Director of Aquaculture Innovation and Technology Development at the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. Yeah, I've obviously been in discussion indirectly around some of these ideas and concepts, and in terms of the proposals that have been developed, and I know William's been quite involved with the discussions. Thanks for the interesting presentation. I think maybe a few comments. I'm glad in terms of the ethics question, I had a concern about the processes that are used, and I'm glad you raised that up front in terms of, you know, that would be an ethical issue in South Africa, especially in terms of doing the ablation and using alternative methods. Maybe my other comment would be, in terms of regulations and legislation, we have quite clear regulation and legislation around marine aquaculture and fisheries, and that would fit under the Marine Living Resource Act. So saying that our department is the competent authority around that, and around in terms of doing research, we do have a process in terms of, you know, more detailed kind of research permits regarding marine species, and then commercial, you know, if you want to farm it commercially, there's also marine right. So, and from what I understand, although fisheries is not my mandate, you can't currently harvest the species given the stock status. But I understand that there is some illegal harvesting going on from what I've heard. So that's an important thing to kind of keep in mind in terms of where we're at and going forward with the project, that we're not creating an expectation, you know, that we're opening the fisheries or anything around that when we're engaging communities and those that may potentially benefit from it. I think I like that you can farm it in different types of systems, because I think one of my questions would be a bit, you know, in which areas are we likely to kind of look at farming it? We've done, you know, we've got some aquaculture development zones in the Eastern Cape. When you're talking KZN, a lot of the areas have conservation areas, so it restricts kind of your potential sites that you have along the coast for commercial aquaculture. So those are some of the kind of going forward areas that we need to look at, you know, where could one actually farm them? And then I think, I know the proposal is that one would need to look at the disease status in terms of the local species, but I wanted to ask a question in terms of what are the kind of potential diseases or primary diseases that they are susceptible to. Are there any WOA listed diseases that one needs to keep in mind? So that's just kind of a technical question around that. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of potential there. We need to just kind of finalize who's responsible for doing what, and what resources are there available to support it, depending on funding applications and things like that. So I think that's just a few points from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And in regards to the disease, there's one important point that I would like to highlight is that mud crab are most of the time people consider mud crab as the harbor of the disease because they have very strong immunity. Well, they have very strong immunity to various diseases, but instead they act as the carrier of the disease. So, for example, in Malaysia, if shrimp farmers found a few mud crabs in their shrimp farms, then most of the time, if the shrimps are ready to harvest, they will immediately harvest them and then clean the whole pond and disinfect the whole pond again after removing the mud crabs. But for diseases, they have the important ones are like reovirus and so on. Those are prevalent in mud crab. I'm not sure in South Africa, but in populations in Malaysia and across Southeast Asia, those are quite prevalent. And another thing I would like to highlight is on the ethics of mud crab production. In broodstock development, so just now during social crab production, we have the removal of hand, so the mutilation strategy to enhance the molting process of mud crab. But in broodstock development, some fishermen, like in shrimp industry, they will do isotope ablation as well to hasten or to shorten the production period and the maturation period of the eggs in the females. So that is also being practiced, but it's not 100% being practiced in all the farms, but some farmers are actually practicing that as well. So that is also a very critical ethical point of view that has to be looked into. And also in most of the countries in Southeast Asia, the enforcement of the law is not as strong. So, for example, in Malaysia, we have some very minimal law on mud crab fishery, but we are starting to educate the local communities on this capturing, what size are suitable for capture, what size are not suitable for capture. But because the demand is still very strong, so most of the time the fishermen will still catch all size and sell them of all size. So that's why regulation is very important, and also the enforcement.
Thanks, Waiho. There's a fair lot of sharing here. We are running a little bit out of time, so I'll just cover this one more question here, I believe, before we wrap up. Okay, so from Umke, I hope I didn't butcher your name. This is insightful, Doctor. However, with regards to South Africa, the mud crab produce for exports reasons might be a bit of an issue due to regulations of no person is allowed to engage in fishing in mud crab that are carrying eggs. As you just said, obtaining license may be tricky, but overall this is good. Any insights on that, Waiho?
Yes, it is tricky, but I think it depends on, well, to enforce something, it actually goes back to educating the whole community, like what we are lacking, but what we are slowly discovering in Malaysia and the other countries is that people, the younger generations, are not aware of the importance of really what are sustainable fisheries, the importance of different rules and regulations that are being set forth, and how they can help in sustainable fishery. So there are a lot of different methods to conduct it, and that also varies depending on different populations and so on. But for South Africa, I think it is important for people to start to realize that it it is an opportunity. But then when the authority starts to see that they might be able to, it might actually help with the as it might be able to be a source of livelihood for coastal communities, then they can actually propose or allow certain people to be able to harvest mud crab to ensure that those harvesters are following the rules and these are being conducted in a sustainable way, right? So then you'll still have the original mud crab populations, but that it also contributes to the economy and livelihood of the community.
Okay, thanks, Waiho. I do apologize. I know there are a fair more bit of statements and questions and sharing. I will really have to wrap this up. I think if there are any more other questions, one can directly refer to Waiho. He shared his email, or through Lucky if at all you have any more questions you want to raise. But other than that, I do apologize to everyone. But at the same time, thank you so much, Waiho, for sharing, and for everyone who have made it to the session. I really appreciate this. And once again, enkosi kakulu.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you, Waiho.